What is the worst accident in human history? A question that may send chills down your spine. Yet it's one that we need to confront. It's not about morbid curiosity, but about understanding the implications of our actions, the lessons we can learn, and the safeguards we must put in place. It's a tale of a disaster, so profound and far-reaching that its echoes can still be heard today. The answer to this unthinkable question? It lies in the heart of Chernobyl. April 26, 1986, a day that the world will never forget. On this ill-fated day in the wee hours of the morning, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine was running a test on an electrical control system of one of its 4 reactors. A combination of design flaws and operator errors culminated in the most catastrophic nuclear accident in history. The reactor's design was inherently unstable, and it had poor containment structures, but on this day, it was pushed beyond its limits. The plant operators, eager to complete the test, ignored several safety protocols. As they shut down the reactor's power regulating system and its emergency safety systems, they unknowingly set a disaster in motion. The reactor's core, now unstable, began to overheat. A sudden surge in power led to a series of explosions that tore the reactor apart. The force of the explosion blew off the heavy steel and concrete lid of the reactor, releasing a cloud of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The immediate aftermath was chaotic and horrifying. The site was engulfed in flames, and thick, toxic smoke billowed from the reactor, carrying with it radioactivity that would contaminate vast areas of Europe. The workers at the plant were the first victims. Exposed to deadly levels of radiation, they bravely battled the fire. But many succumbed to acute radiation sickness. Despite the unfolding disaster, the Soviet authorities were slow to react. They initially downplayed the incident, leading to delays in evacuation and exposing more people to the harmful effects of radiation. It took more than a day for the Soviet Union to admit to the world the magnitude of the catastrophe that had occurred at Chernobyl. This day of disaster was not just a technological failure but also a human one. It was a chilling demonstration of the destructive potential of nuclear power when it is not handled with the utmost care and respect. The events of April 26, 1986 reverberated around the world, affecting millions of lives and changing the course of history. In the blink of an eye, Chernobyl became a symbol of a global catastrophe. The explosion was just the beginning. The immediate aftermath of the disaster was a scene of chaos and devastation. The city of Pripyat, once a bustling hub of life, was quickly turned into a ghost town. On the morning of the disaster, the city's residents were going about their usual routines, blissfully unaware of the magnitude of the catastrophe that had just occurred. But within hours, they were told to leave everything behind and evacuate. The efforts to contain the spread of radiation were monumental. Thousands of firefighters, soldiers, and miners, known as liquidators, were mobilized to extinguish the fires and build a containment structure around the damaged reactor. Braving unimaginable risks, these brave men and women worked tirelessly, often without proper protection, to prevent a further escalation of the disaster. But the human toll of the disaster was staggering. In the immediate aftermath, dozens of people lost their lives due to acute radiation sickness. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. The long-term health effects of the radiation exposure would claim thousands more lives in the years to come. Birth defects, cancer, and a host of other health problems became a grim reality for those who lived and worked in the vicinity of the disaster. The psychological impact of the disaster was equally devastating. The survivors not only had to grapple with the loss of their homes and loved ones, but also with the fear of the invisible enemy, radiation. The stigma associated with being a Chernobyl victim added another layer of suffering to their already traumatic experience. The world watched in horror as the events unfolded. The disaster laid bare the inherent risks of nuclear power and sparked a global debate on its use. The international community came together to provide aid and support, but the road to recovery would be long and fraught with challenges. In the end, the disaster served as a grim reminder of the devastating power of nuclear energy when things go wrong. It underscored the importance of safety measures and protocols in nuclear facilities, and the need for transparency and accountability in their operation. A disaster of this magnitude had never been experienced by humankind. But the effects of Chernobyl are far from over. The long shadow of Chernobyl continues to cast a pall over the world, reminding us of the horrific consequences of nuclear accidents. The environment, human health, and the socio-economic framework of the region all bear the scars of the disaster. a testimony to our hubris in handling forces beyond our control. The environmental impact of Chernobyl is staggering. Radioactivity has permeated the soil, water, and air, affecting the flora and fauna in a radius of thousands of miles. The radioactive isotopes, with their long half-lives, will continue to pose a threat for many generations to come. The Red Forest, once a vibrant ecosystem, stands as a silent, eerie monument to the devastation. The human cost is equally heartbreaking. Thousands of people suffered from acute radiation sickness immediately after the disaster. However, the long-term health effects are far more insidious. Many survivors and their descendants have been afflicted with a host of health issues, including an increased incidence of cancer and birth defects. The psychological toll of the disaster, often overlooked, is just as profound, with high rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder among the affected population. The socio-economic consequences of Chernobyl have been catastrophic. The immediate area around the reactor is a ghost town, a chilling reminder of the lives lost and displaced. The cost of the cleanup, ongoing even today, has drained the coffers of Ukraine and Belarus. The economic impact has been felt far beyond these borders, with European countries grappling with the cost of decontaminating their lands and compensating their affected citizens. Chernobyl has also reshaped the global narrative on nuclear energy. The disaster prompted a re-evaluation of the safety protocols in nuclear power plants worldwide, leading to stricter regulations and oversight. However, it also fueled fear and mistrust towards nuclear power, slowing down its adoption as a viable alternative to fossil fuels. Chernobyl is a disaster that is still unfolding. It serves as a grim reminder of the far-reaching consequences of our actions, urging us to tread with caution and respect for the power we wield. What lessons can we learn from Chernobyl? The Chernobyl disaster was an event of catastrophic proportions, but from the ashes of this calamity, lessons can be gleaned. One of the most significant takeaways from Chernobyl is the importance of transparency. The initial secrecy surrounding the disaster not only hampered immediate response efforts but also led to widespread mistrust. The truth, as we've learned, is that misinformation or the withholding of information can exacerbate a crisis, making it even more difficult to manage. Another lesson from Chernobyl is the vital need for robust disaster response protocols. When the reactor exploded, there was no effective plan in place to deal with such a catastrophe. It was a scramble to contain the damage, and the lack of preparedness cost lives. The incident underscores that in high-risk sectors like nuclear energy, thorough emergency response plans are not just an option, they are a necessity. Finally, Chernobyl has taught us about the risks of nuclear power. While it offers significant benefits, such as low greenhouse gas emissions, the potential for disaster is always lurking. The disaster highlighted the need for stringent safety measures and rigorous oversight in nuclear facilities. It's a stark reminder that when dealing with forces as powerful as nuclear energy, there is no room for complacency. We also must remember that the effects of nuclear disasters are long-lasting. Decades after the Chernobyl explosion, the surrounding area is still largely uninhabitable, and people continue to suffer the health impacts. This long-term devastation underscores the need for sustainable and safe energy alternatives. In essence, the lessons of Chernobyl revolve around transparency, preparedness, and respect for the immense power we wield when we tap into the atom. These lessons, learned at a high cost, must guide our future actions and decisions in the realm of nuclear power. Chernobyl serves as a haunting reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power. So, let us recap. In our journey through history, we've retraced the steps leading up to the Chernobyl disaster, a cataclysmic event that shook the world. We delved into the chronology of the accident, a sequence of events that unfolded like a tragic play, each act contributing to the eventual catastrophe. We explored the immediate aftermath of the disaster, a time of chaos and confusion. The world watched in horror as the effects of radiation spread, impacting not just the immediate vicinity, but also distant lands. The invisible enemy, radiation, seeped into the lives of countless people, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Then, we looked at the long-term effects of the calamity. The ghost town of Pripyat still stands today as a grim testament to the disaster. The land, once teeming with life, now lies desolate and abandoned. The effects of the disaster continue to ripple through time, affecting generations. Finally, we drew lessons from Chernobyl. The disaster underscores the critical importance of safety protocols and the need for meticulous planning and execution in the field of nuclear energy. It serves as a grim reminder that, with great power, comes great responsibility. Chernobyl, the worst accident in human history, continues to serve as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of human error and technological failure.